I often tell people I would do the same presentation that I was doing before I had a book. I mean, I probably got a little bit better, but it was the same exact presentation. But now afterwards, people were approaching me saying, hey, let's do long-term relationships. Let's do long-term contracts instead of just, hey, thanks for the presentation.
Welcome to the Marketing for the Culture podcast, powered by the African American Marketing Association. Each week, we'll bring you an insightful conversation from some of the best experts in our industry on how to advance our career. Join the collective of Black marketers across the world, advancing their brand as we work towards creating a collaborative community. Hey, good people. Welcome back to another episode of Marketing for the Culture podcast. I am your host, Michelle Gomez, and today's special guest is Chris Cheetham-West. He's a returning guest. He has his brand new book called Leading in a Virtual World. So, Chris, welcome to the show, and congratulations on your new book.
Thanks for having me. Sure.
So if you haven't listened to, I think, episode number 3, he was our very first guest on the show. Go ahead and tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Oh, sure. So my name's Chris, and I've been in this field, marketing, training, speaking, I would say 8 years full time. So my background is went to school for marketing. After that, got a job at Google as a marketing specialist. And then that had us go around the country training and helping small businesses understand how to utilize marketing and how to utilize online platforms, Google Analytics, Google Places, Google Maps, all the Google tools you can think of, even Google Plus back in the day, right? So had us going around the country. And then eventually, I realized that I was the only one that liked to present out of my team members. And I was like, you know what, let me start a business out of it back in 2014. And so, I was like, you know what, they would always say, hey, let's go do a workshop. And then I'll be the only one that's excited about it. So 2014, ended up starting my own business, LR Training Solutions. And then we do corporate training for organizations. And then ended up writing, this is my second book, wrote Digital Marketing for Results in 2020. And so this new book just released last week, actually. So definitely excited about it. But and live in Houston, Texas as well.
So you're going back to back. You just book on top of book.
Trying to be consistent, it is. People need content.
So, before we get into this book, and content's a good thing, you were already speaking professionally for, like you said, I guess 6 years at that time. When you wrote Digital Marketing for Results, did you see a change once you published that book in your business?
Yeah, it was a major change. It was interesting because I've heard that a book can help your business, but at the same time, that doesn't happen to everybody. So I was a little bit skeptical. I didn't know what to expect. But when I did release it, it did give me a certain level of credibility for my business. So I often tell people I would do the same presentation that I was doing before I had a book. I mean, I probably got a little bit better, but it was the same exact presentation. But now afterwards, people were approaching me saying, hey, let's do long-term relationships. Let's do long-term contracts instead of just, hey, thanks for the presentation. So I think it really helped with the credibility that, hey, this person, since they wrote a book on a topic, they must know a little bit more. They must know what he's talking about. So it definitely helps. So credibility and more clients as well. So, and also what I learned too about this process is that it actually makes me realize how much content that I can put out there and how much content is available.
Wow.
And I think that's what I tell authors is that once you write a book or your process, you then realize that, hey, you do have a lot of information to share with the world. And then this information can be posted online in a newsletter, blog post, and other things as well. So that was one of the things I realized.
Did you change anything about your writing process, book 1 versus book 2?
So this time it was pretty similar. So I think my style is, since I would already travel and I'm going to different speaking engagements, I would try to set a goal of maybe 2 paragraphs a week, just knock it out consistently, just like, even though it's slow, because I pretty much planned this out over a year ago. So then I was like, you know what, let me write something, at least something, so I can be consistent. I didn't tell myself I got to write 20 pages a week. I said, you know what, just put something on paper each week. And then that's what I did the last week too. Just put something on my paper each week and then set a deadline. So I think that's the biggest thing that was helpful is, hey, if I can set a deadline, then when the deadline gets closer, I kind of push myself a little bit more. And I mean, some people, they say, you know what, they lock themselves in a hotel room for 4 days. I can't do that. It's like, there's no way I can do that. You know what I'm saying? I probably couldn't write 4 hours straight, man, the max. So that's max 4 hours.
It's still good.
Yeah. I can't do more than 4. Other than that, I have to I would do some research. But I would say that one thing I did similar that helped is I didn't focus on one chapter at a time. I just went all over the place. Like I would work on chapter 2, chapter 5, chapter 6, chapter 8. Whenever I get ideas, just add content, keep adding content. That's so that way I'm not stuck with writer's block on chapter 1, and I just stopped writing at all. So
yeah. Okay, marketing book coach. Okay, so the new book is Leading in a Virtual World. Okay, Leading in a Virtual Book. So you said you worked on this for, I guess, almost a year now. But why is this book important right now?
So I think it's important because I think we've been going through a shift this past 2 years. We're used to going to work in person. Like my first job was remote. My first full-time job was remote. And back then I was like, what is remote work? Why am I not able to see my coworkers? This is kind of strange to me. I never heard of it before. And so looking back now in the environment, this was going on for years, but kind of the pandemic forced a lot of companies to go through this, So you read a lot about how some companies, they realized once people were working at home, they realized wait a minute, we're saving money. We're a little bit more productive, so we don't have to have people paying for gas all the time, unproductive, so they're saving money on real estate, on expenses. So I think it was a good time, and based on my experience as far as the challenges. Because I remember when I was working remotely, I realized I wasn't the type of person that would be chatting back and forth all day, every day with coworkers. I'm more so let's get the job done, and then I give you the report. But it seemed like from coworkers or my managers, it'll be like, hey, is this person working? Because I wasn't proactively talking, so it's sending messages all day, every day. So that's just one of the many challenges of working remote. You might think a person's not working, but they are working, but their personality is different. So they're rather just get the work done and send a report. And other times you might think they are working, but they're not. So it's that's why it's really important these days. And more companies are going towards, fully remote or hybrid situations. So I thought it was a good time.
Yeah, that is a good point, because I think companies feel like time management is important to them, right? And I guess now in this virtual world, there's so many ways time management can look to each person. Because I know when I was working at the law firm, I felt like when we went into the pandemic, my boss was just finding anything and everything for us to do. Just making up stuff, right? I felt like I worked more at home than when I was in the office. And he liked us in the office because he could see us. Yeah. And I didn't even work hard in the office.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's the fact that he could see, it's I can see you, right? But just because you see me doesn't mean I'm managing my time better. So what are some of the pros and cons with this virtual world?
So the pros, so there's a lot of pros and cons. So one of the pros is that people are finding to get a little bit more productive. So now the people that I interviewed, they let me know that, hey, they can wake up and go straight to their desk or their office. So they don't have to go in, they don't have to get dressed up, they don't have to drive in their car and then go to work and then spend overall maybe 2 hours a day in traffic. So those are one of the pros. And even when let's say you have a kid at home or you have a kid in daycare, now you can kind of do some of those tasks when you're at home. And then depending on your job, you can get home, you can still do some work. After 5, you can still do some work. And people are feeling that is a lot more productive than just going to work and then being there just so you can say, that you're there. Because if you think about it, some of these jobs that we have, a lot of it can be done at home. And so usually it's just the fact that they want to see you there. But I feel like one of the cons is the fact that you lose that connection that you had. It's hard. You have the water cooler chatter. It's hard to really replace that, because you're connected. You're seeing people in person. And some people, they need that energy from people. Where other people, they're okay with being like working alone and maybe they're actually better. But that connection right there is one of the cons of just like being away. And then, I just recommend, if possible, like what we used to do is we would have the monthly meetups with the regional offices. Like 2 or 3 days out of the month, we all meet up. Even though we're not seeing each other every month, we meet up, and then maybe once a year, twice a year, we have like an annual conference, annual get together, so we all can at least spend time with each other and get to know each other. But yeah, there's many pros and cons.
Any advice when it comes to the engagement and these various hybrid models that companies are working? I think lots of times when we think about the virtual world, Zoom, Teams, we just feel like we have to have the meeting and that's it, right? Any tips when it comes to engagement or making virtual fun?
Yeah. So a lot of times we think when we're working virtually, we think that it has to be buttoned up. We have to be at the meeting and it has to be strictly about work all the time. And the problem is people are tired of that. People are tired of just getting on Zoom and having a 1 hour meeting. And sometimes you don't even need to have an hour meeting. They just have a meeting just to spend time, just to say that it's a meeting, right? So you got to think about, do you really need to meet? So do you, like one of the companies that I talked to, they're saying that what they do is they send everybody the agenda beforehand. And if there's not enough items on the agenda, they don't have the meeting. So I thought that was a good idea. I was like, what? That's true, because how many meetings do we go to that could have been an email? It could have just been an email or a quick phone call. So that's the first thing, is think about, okay, do we need to meet? But in general, when it comes to engagement, think of different ways that you can have those activities. So instead of it only being about work the whole time, maybe have a game. So like I talk about in the book, there's escape room. We've all heard of that. They do a lot of virtual stuff as well. So all these things like wine tasting, all that, all that is, you can actually have that in a virtual environment. And that can be some type of a team building you can do for your team, virtual, like scavenger hunts. People look around the office for things as well. So figuring out how can you make it more engaging versus, hey, let's come to the meeting, let's talk about business, and then let's head out. So why not? One of the people I interviewed, she said that they do a monthly cooking session where they go around talking about, okay, one person cooks something and they show each other how to make the meal. So I thought that was really interesting. So there's some things that you want to be consistent with as far as like connecting and just overall making it a fun environment. And then don't be afraid to be the person that implements that. That you don't have to wait for that. You don't have to wait for the manager, executive to do that. You can be the person that thinks of this idea and says, hey, how about we do a monthly get together on virtual Zoom and we talk about different topics. We talk about sports. We talk about children. We talk about anything else besides work. So you can build that connection.
Yeah, those are some good ideas. I've never heard of those ideas that you just mentioned. Really good. Really good. Yes. Okay. So I think one thing you actually made a good point, because your first job out of college was with Google and you were working remote, but then also traveling. And I want you to kind of go back to that time as well as some of the new grads in the past 2 years from college. And, I guess going into college, you're thinking you're going to go work in the office. And, how are managers onboarding new talent, especially new graduates in this virtual world? Any tips when it comes to onboarding new talent in the workplace?
Yeah, that's a good question, because that's something that's overlooked these days as well. We think about remote work. We think about, hey, everybody was at an office at one point And now we're going remotely, and now we have to communicate with each other remotely. But what about the new hires? What about the hires that come in and they've never been a part of the culture? They've never met anybody. So there has to be strategies in place to make sure that onboarding goes smoothly. And even with the new grads, like to go back to where I was when at Google, it was strange because we did go to the head office in Mountain View and in New York a couple of times, and we met each other for 2 weeks. And then we went to the Austin office a couple of times, but still we missed that connection. And we were onboarded for 2 weeks, but we still didn't have that newness, that mini feel for that first 2 or 3 months. You know, like you get that new job feel, it's like, and you get to know people. That's kind of like we went there for 2 weeks and that was it. And then now, so we really didn't really get to grasp all the opportunities and perks and everything. But that's what companies need to realize these days is how can you continue giving people that newness when they get to that job? And what I've seen is as far as onboarding is some companies, what they do is they make sure that when the training starts, they're partnering them up with other coworkers. Like every week, let's say the training is and onboarding is 2 weeks. Every other day, they're having a new person introduce themselves to them versus, hey, we're going to do an onboarding. You're going to watch all these videos and then that's it. And then good luck. You know, they're introduce people during that entire process. And so what people, some companies are doing, or what I advise sometimes is think about all the stuff you did in the onboarding process, and maybe you can record those sessions so these people can see them and watch them later. And also figure out during that onboarding, how can people continue to meet with the other coworkers or colleagues so they can get an idea of what that culture is about. Because if not, it's going to be lonely. You know, it's going to be lonely. They've never worked there. They've never really connected on any emotional level. So yeah, definitely consider that when it comes to new hires, new graduates, or just in general going remote.
Yeah. What about some tools and resources to kind of help with the community building in the virtual world? And I'm, beyond Zoom and Teams and stuff like that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's actually, just like the games I talked about, there's a tool called Coffee, and that kind of facilitates all this. I mentioned how you want to make sure everybody's meeting each other. So a tool called Coffee right now, it's let's say, for instance, you want to have team members meet with a manager or an executive just for mentorship every month. So it automatically rotates people to meet them up on a virtual call. It does it for you. So instead of you trying to having to figure all this out, just use a tool that can actually help people engage a little bit more. And then there's HR tools as well. HR tools that can help you kind of, if you want to kind of have a virtual idea of how your company looks, it'll show you where people are meeting at one time, like what people are saying. There's a lot of tools out there, but mainly the collaboration tools, which you want to look into. So Coffee and tools like that, that's going to facilitate all this for you. Because remember, whether you're an executive or manager, this might be all new to everybody.
Right.
So you want to make sure you're getting these tools that can help you facilitate that as well.
Right.
So that's a lot.
Also, going back to the physical workplace, we would say, or some managers would say, there's an open door policy, right? So you can come in my office anytime and talk to me about whatever. How are leaders managing an open door policy in the virtual world?
Yeah, that's a good point, because many are struggling right now with that. Because that's the thing. It's like, because if it's virtual, they either over communicate or not communicate enough when it comes to that open door policy. And I recommend having maybe office hours. So maybe once a week, you have a place where, hey, just come by and talk, come by and discuss any type of issues. Because one thing I realized this when I was working remotely, because of my personality, you have one person that's proactive and they're going to reach out all day, every day to the manager. And then you have another person that is going to get the work done, and maybe they're going to send you an email, 1 or 2 emails, but they're getting the work done, right? So the manager might feel that this one person that's not reaching out, what's going on? He's not doing that much. But in reality, as a manager or leader, you probably want to reach out to these people. You probably want to proactively tell people like, hey, be open to calling, be open to sending me messages, be open to having meetings. here's my office hours on Friday at 3 p.m., 2 p.m. So being proactive as the manager that's facilitating that, because I think one of the challenges is the FaceTime aspect of it. So before, let's say you want to get a promotion, part of that is, hey, showing your face, right? People see you, you're in the office, you're working, but now the challenge is, hey, people don't see each other. So how can you get that FaceTime? So I feel like people need to think about, okay, how can we make a platform to where they do get that FaceTime, they do get to communicate, they do get to connect with the coworkers and the managers that are available. Yeah. And even that way, even when it comes to the Zoom calls, so many people are have the camera off, right? So it's like, just leave your camera on to build that connection too. So.
That's a good point. I know I got the Kindle book, I think on Friday, and the physical book came in today. So with me skimming through it, you have some pretty tough people in here. Can you talk about how your relationships led to interviews, to people that you interviewed in the book, and just the overall importance of that when it comes to writing and promoting a book as this?
Okay, yeah. So I think it's really important to have those interviews in there if you're writing a book. So I feel like it gives people a different perspective, because many of the books that I've read in the past, like, if you can have quotes, or you can have quotes from history. I think it's important because it shows people other perspectives from outside of the author's point of view. Because I have my experience, what I've worked, my current business, my Google, but at the same time, it's like people might have different environments. So that's why I interviewed one of my clients is cardiologist. Yeah. So I was like, what does it mean to be healthy while you're working remotely? I can't speak on that. I can't speak, say I'm still trying to work on my health, so I can't speak on, I can't speak on how can somebody be healthy while they're working at home, because that's a whole nother topic right there. And those relationships are important because I was able to reach out to those people and then do like a 30-minute interview. And then, of course, got everything transcribed. But yeah, I just thought about, okay, the people I want, they are coming from different backgrounds. Like one person, she has like one assistant. Another person is in HR. Another person, they're in a corporate environment. They work at home. They used to work in the office. So I try to make sure that kind of get a different people. But yeah, it really helps because the promotion, now I can send them the information and maybe they can promote it as well. And then it gives people an idea of, hey, there's a variety of content in there. Yeah. And so, just like when I interviewed you for the last book, right? Last book. Networking. Yeah. So she's in the last book if you want to check out.
Digital Marketing for Results. Yeah, so that's 2 books. Where can people find both books?
Amazon. Yeah, you can find it on Amazon. So type in Digital Marketing for Results and then Leading in a Virtual World. Digital Marketing Results, you can find on the Barnes & Noble, Walmart.com, and all those sites. I think it might be up on those websites. My new book might be up on the websites. I haven't checked yet, but for sure it's on Amazon, paperback, and Kindle as well. So,
all right, Chris. And how can people find and connect with you?
So LinkedIn. So type in Chris Cheetham-West, LinkedIn, Instagram, Chris in West. And so where else? Facebook, Chris Cheetham-West as well. So I'm everywhere. So thanks for bringing me on. And y'all continue to check out this podcast as well. Check out check out the conference as well. So
Yeah, we had a great time at the Marketing for the Culture Summit. So this is the first interview after the event. And next year, you're definitely speaking. So we'll just have to work.
Okay, I'll be there next year. I got some things going on, family stuff going on right now. I'll be coming through, of course. Yeah. So
All right. Well, I want to thank you once again, Chris, for being a guest, sharing your knowledge with us. Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you haven't already, please follow AAMA Houston on Instagram, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the Marketing for the Culture podcast. Thank you once again. Thank you for listening to Marketing for the Culture podcast. If you haven't already, please subscribe, whether it's on Apple, Google, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform. And of course, our videos are on YouTube. If you have a moment, feel free to give us a rate, review, or just comment. We appreciate our sponsors for their continuous support. Also, if you're interested in learning more about our sponsors or becoming a member of the African American Marketing Association, visit aa-ma.org.